1993, beat-em-ups and brawlers were everywhere. Games like Final Fight and Streets of Rage seemed to be at the top of the heap in that era, but Sega had another title that would mix things up in more ways than one. 1993 is when Cyborg Justice came to the Genesis, and with it came some of the more innovative and exciting game mechanics I had seen up to that point. Cyborgs were all the rage in the early 1990s. Man and machine, cybernetic organisms. It seemed like some kind of terrifying inevitability. But whether you were excited or scared by that possible future, Cyborg Justice took place in a world that really drove home the idea of a man versus machine future, where robots would inevitably enslave mankind, entrapping them within mechanical bodies and forcing them to do everything from menial tasks to fighting their wars for them, or in your case, working at the munitions factory while they gear up to take over known space. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This game has specific memories for me in my childhood. My neighbor was the Sega Genesis owner, while I don't even think I owned a Super Nintendo at the time Cyborg Justice had come out. But it was the kind of game that made me want to play it. Awesome cover art, beat-em-up gameplay that I loved, extremely lifelike animations for the time, and those unique game mechanics I had mentioned earlier, they made the game not only fun, but funny to a couple of kids. The game's two-player modes include a dual mode, which is kind of lame, but does further showcase the game's fluid animations, and a co-op version of the main story, but in that mode, only one player gets to customize their cyborg. That customization, that's the selling point of Cyborg Justice. This game allows you to customize your cyborg before starting the game. You pick an arm, a body type, and a pair of legs. The options seem endless, and the box for the game insists it leads to a potential 216 combinations of killer cyborgs. In the 1990s, if you didn't own a Sega Genesis, you didn't have to worry about your gamertag or PSN account or Steam ID swapping between consoles. You could literally go to your local video rental store and rent the system. Cyborg Justice is one of the few games I rented an entire system for. I had to spend a weekend building new bots with which I could do battle, but mixing and matching before starting the game was only half of the fun. Once you figure out the mechanics, you can literally, and pun intended here, disarm an opponent. Once their arm is gone, you can choose to throw it at them for additional damage, drop it, or even swap out your own arm for theirs. Once they're missing an arm, you can remove the torso of an enemy and absorb their energy or toss the body as you continue your lust for revenge. I distinctly remember the ability to pull parts from the pile of rubble left after defeating an enemy, but I had a hard time remembering the button combination to achieve this. Also, removing an enemy's arm or torso was actually quite difficult, even when simply playing on normal difficulty. The AI in the game is downright spasmodic. They move around and jump endlessly. Setting the game on easy made the game laughably simple to dismantle enemies as they approached. So why are you, as a cyborg, beating up on other robots and cyborgs? The Cyborg Justice instruction manual and opening cinematic will clue you into that detail. As a Galactic Unity agent, you're on a routine patrol mission through deep space. Suddenly your ship starts rocking like a leaf in a cyclone. You're caught in a massive meteor storm. Meteors the size of dinosaurs hurtle by your frail patrol craft, desperately twisting the ship through the onrushing boulders, but even your practice skills aren't enough. With a mighty crash, you're hit. Your fighter loses control and swerves into the orbit of a nearby asteroid. Once in the atmosphere, it catches fire and plummets toward the surface. With a tremendous crash, everything goes dark. There's nothing more to remember. You spend your days tearing through heavy metal, shoving tons of steel, welding together huge cannon parts. As slave cyborgs, you and hundreds of others are forced to work in the computer-controlled munitions factories of the Cyborg Federation. You are a machine, a body and brain made of steel and electronics. But something in your mental wiring keeps bothering you. Every hour, unsettling thoughts break through your programming. You're being held against your will. You're not really a cyborg. The munitions factory and the Cyborg Federation are incredibly evil. Suddenly, it all comes back. You remember the patrol mission, the meteor storm, and the crash. You recall the laser surgery that rebuilt the shreds of your body and brain into a massive metal muscle and electronic skill. And finally, you relive the horror of the memory erase process that kept bleeping error while missing the deepest part of your brain. You're a cyborg with a memory and a vengeance. The Cyborg Federation is amassing a huge armory of intraspace ballistic war machines. Their scheme is to launch an overpowering strike against the Galactic Unity. And they're almost ready. Unless you can stop them, they'll soon blaze across space in a surprise global takeover. You lurch away from the work area, but you're spotted. Cyborg guards sound the alarm. Waves of cyborgs begin moving towards you. Now, you've got to decimate an army of deadly cybernetic soldiers, all under orders to seek and destroy. So what does Cyborg Justice make you feel when you start the game? Well, the settings are varied, but slowly. The first level makes you feel isolated, large buildings in the distant background as though you were making a run for it. But now you've encountered an endless onslaught of robots and cyborgs trying to stop you. You are on the run for your life. Who knows if someone in the universe can reverse this process now? But even if you're destined to spend the rest of your life in this tin can, you won't do it as a servant to the Cyborg Federation. But as you progress through the levels, they get boring before they get exciting. In a Super Mario Bros.-like numbering scheme, the game consists of 5 main worlds, each with 3 levels. Each world, again using Mario terms, is unique and interesting, but each level in those worlds isn't much more than a palette swap of the one before it. But the variety of cyborgs coming at you and the ability to swap out parts on the fly and make yourself have everything from faster movement to more powerful weapons to stronger kicks and flips, which can be used to attack or dodge, the game plays extremely well. And thinking of myself as that human unwillingly made into a cyborg, I'm gonna fight back until I have nothing left to fight with. Even the game's continue screens remind you that you've got to get back up and keep fighting to see what's at the end of our story so far. Thanks for watching another episode of OurStorySoFar.tv. You guys are fantastic. Please keep the views coming. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you'd like to interact with me directly, hit me up on Twitter, @NewAngel, that's Nuangel. And I'd like to make a special announcement here. Come back on February 15th. That's a Monday, and I usually release videos every other Friday, but I've decided that I want to try and do 5 videos in 5 days on February 15th. It's a special thing for 2016, just to try and fill the channel with a few more episodes. I know we're still getting started, and it's going to take some time to grow, but I just want to pump out a few extras just so that you have something to watch if you are a loyal viewer. And remember, all the latest news and episodes are always going to be available at OurStorySoFar.tv. Thanks very much for watching Our Story So Far.